What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. And the midterm elections now about 3 weeks away. And both sides wondering what they might do with control of Congress. The Republicans thinking they're going to have control of the House and or the Senate. The Democrats thinking they might have control of the House and or the Senate. Both sides thinking, yeah, there's a lot we could do with control. And here's what both sides are saying. This is going to be very important going forward. So here's some of the details. Check this out. First up, Biden to announce one of the first bills he'd send to a new Democratic Congress would codify Roe versus Wade, the abortion law that was struck down by the Supreme Court, taking away women's right to choose and the government basically making the choice for them. Here's what the details on this. President Biden on Tuesday will announce that the first bill he would send to Congress if Democrats retain the majorities will be one to codify the Roe v. Wade ruling on abortion rights. Remember, Congress can overrule the Supreme Court if Congress has enough votes to pass a law. So if the Democrats, per se, have enough votes to do this, they could codify it into law. And the Democrats are hoping to have this. The Republicans, not so much. And this is where the different ideologies fall here. And this is where a lot of women in particular are going to be showing up to vote here for this midterm elections, because this is really falling into one of the major issues for America right now. Whether you're pro-life or pro-choice or a bit of both, millions of Americans and women in particular are showing up to vote right now, saying they want their votes and their voice to be heard. Biden is set to make the remarks at an event in Washington, D.C., hosted by the DNC. It illustrates how Democrats and Biden want to put the emphasis on abortion rights ahead of the midterms, as new polls suggest the party is losing momentum in its effort to retain the Senate and the House. Biden announcements has caveats. Sending the bill is dependent on Democrats retaining the House, which has always looked like an uphill climb, and increasing the Senate majority, which could allow Democrats to change the rules surrounding the filibuster. Increasing the number of Democratic senators is possible in this year's midterms. Now, the president will say that if Democrats can retain the Senate and even gain a few seats, they won't have to rely on as much Democratic senators like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. Because if they get a few more seats, then Joe Manchin won't get to write the bills on very, controversial bills like the Inflation Reduction Act or even the third stimulus check package, where Democrats would have more control and be able to make the bills larger, put more help in there, and would be able to do more of their priorities. And remember that the last stimulus package and the Inflation Reduction Act, which was going to cap cost on Medicare to $2,000 a year in deductible costs, lower the cost of insulin to $35 a month, had a whole bunch of different things like that. Largely, and it also had things like initially there was going to be potential 2 years of free community college, and a lot of other things in there as well. Also, Republicans voted down $35 per month insulin for private health care. So anybody on private health care, like through your work or anything like that, Republicans voted down capping the cost of insulin at $35 for everybody else not on Medicare. So Democrats would say if they had a few more votes, they could push through a lot of other things that moderate Democrats like Joe Manchin wouldn't. On the Republican side, if Republicans take over control, in the news today, major headlines: Marjorie Taylor Greene. If McCarthy wants to make the base happy, he'll give me a lot more power. And believe it or not, some people, she's a fan or are a fan of her. She's actually growing in popularity in the Republican Party. Some people can't believe this. Some people, she's actually, growing in popularity quite considerably in the Republican Party. She sat directly behind Kevin McCarthy here recently. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican, warned that the Republican base would be, quote, very unhappy if House Minority Leader, who would probably be House Majority Leader, does not give, if the Republicans take over the House, that the Republicans would be very unhappy if Kevin McCarthy does not give her more power if Republicans take over control of the chamber next year. In a New York Times Magazine profile on Monday examining Greene's rise in influence and future, the Georgia Congresswoman indicated that McCarthy would have to adopt her a lot more aggressive approach towards President Biden, whom she has introduced multiple articles of impeachment against. Quote, Greene said, I think that to be the best Speaker of the House and to please the Republican base, he's going to have to give me a lot of power and a lot of leeway. And if he doesn't, they're going to be very unhappy about it. I think that's the best way to read it. And that's not in any way a threat at all. I just think that's the reality. I don't know. It kind of sounds like a friendly threat, like a frenemy threat, saying, "Give me power." Kind of strange. Remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene was removed from all her committee roles, which normally, in past situations, your party would kind of frown upon that. But will she? And really, normally, the leader of your party, in this case, Kevin McCarthy from the House, normally not take too kindly to somebody saying something like that to them. So, like, hey, you got to give me more power, or else the party wouldn't like this. What do you think? What do you think he'll do about this? What do you think? Marjorie Taylor Greene was stripped of her committee assignments soon after being sworn into office as punishment for her posts about conspiracy theories and liking Facebook comments that called for the assassination of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. McCarthy has pledged to restore Marjorie Taylor Greene's committee assignments, suggesting at one point that she could have an even better committees than the one she had assigned to before, education and labor budget committees. Marjorie Taylor Greene says, I would like to be on the Oversight Committee. I would also like to be on the Judiciary Committee. I think both of those I'd be good on. She says, I completely deserve it. I've been treated like an blank. I don't know the word she used there. I've been treated like garbage. You can let me know your thoughts on this. Also on the Republican agenda, McCarthy warns there will be, quote, no blank check to Ukraine in a Republican majority. He says that House Republicans will not write a blank check to Ukraine if they take control of the lower chamber next year, making one of the clearest signs that aid to the war-torn country fighting off the Russian invasion will face a much tougher road in a Republican-led House. He says, quote, I think people are gonna be sitting in a recession and they're not going to write a blank check to Ukraine. They just won't do it. He said, if Republicans win the majority. It's not a free blank check. And then there's the things that the Biden administration is not doing domestically, not doing the border, and people begin to weigh that. Ukraine is important, but at the same time, it can't be the only thing they do, and it can't be a blank check. Now, actually, I do actually agree with Kevin McCarthy there. The Ukraine war is actually a very worthy cause, but America does need to come first. But if you actually look at the amount of aid going to Ukraine, it's actually a drop in the bucket compared to, for example, just as an example, the student loan debt forgiveness is expected to be like 250, 300 billion dollars. The Ukraine aid is a little bit over 10% of that in total. So just like that one package of student loan debt forgiveness is almost 10 times more than the Ukraine aid in total, just to put it in comparison. Okay. And that's just the student loan debt forgiveness. You look at like the first stimulus check package, the second stimulus check package, the third stimulus check package. The third stimulus check package and the first stimulus check package were both both around 2 trillion, 1.9 trillion and 2.2 trillion. Okay. Ukraine's, I think it's a little bit over 40 billion. Okay. That's literally like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction that they have spent there. And remember, it's mostly in like weaponry and stuff going over there to basically fend off a World War III type of situation happening. It's a very complex thing going on there because, we're not sending troops, and it's a whole complex deal over there. Um, and again, we're not the only country doing this. I mean, it's literally like dozens and dozens and dozens of countries that are supplying this. Like pretty much all of the EU, the European Union, all of NATO, pretty much all sending aid over there as well. Mostly weaponry and things like that. Okay. So I did want to keep that in mind because most people don't realize that. Okay. So yeah, most people aren't aware of that, okay? But on the other hand, yes, we don't really want to send a blank check to Ukraine. The other thing I want to make clear here, because again, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, and a lot of people aren't aware of this. Most people, or not most people, but some people say, why is Biden sending all this over to Ukraine? Why is Biden sending all this money over to Ukraine or anything like that? Just so everybody is aware, anything that goes over to Ukraine has to be approved by Congress. Republicans and Democrats have to approve it. And everything that has been approved to Ukraine has been overwhelmingly approved by Republicans and Democrats. Just so everybody is clear there. Okay. So then they approve it, and then the White House has basically the authority to say, okay, let's send a new wave of weapons, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But Republicans and Democrats have to approve it because you need 60 votes in the Senate, and you can't do that without Republican support. So um, even with kind of the Republican posture there, Republicans and Mitch McConnell and Republican supports have overwhelmingly agreed to this. So if you hear any Republican pushback on anything with Ukraine or anything like that, remember that Republicans overwhelmingly supported every single package that went to Ukraine. They had a super majority every time they voted for that. So I just wanted to be clear on that because it's not like it's just Biden or just Democrats or anything along those lines that are sending that. And I just wanted to also be clear on the amount of money, or really, it's really defense stuff being sent on that. And also, I also want to kind of show here that the U.S. is currently producing and in kind of like like hurry up and produce more weaponry and defense stuff for us as well right now. So if anybody, it's the defense contractors that are kind of making out right now, because this is kind of a big thing right now, because the threat of Putin with World War III, and he's literally talking about dropping nuclear bombs and stuff. If anything, this has kind of weakened their army significantly. I mean, the losses to their army have been pretty dramatic here. I mean, they've lost more troops than have been lost in Afghanistan in that whole war for years. The amount of troops that have been lost over there. It's really hard to tell because nobody's reporting the real numbers. Russia doesn't report their numbers. The amount of actual reporting that they do is like, is trying to get the amount of deaths from COVID out of China, right? Um, but it's like, it's a really tough situation because America should be first. And don't get me wrong, we are. This is where people kind of get the numbers really misconstrued here. When you look at just the third stimulus package that went out to Americans with the fourth stimulus check, the rent assistance, the mortgage assistance, the utility assistance, just the rent assistance alone, okay, that most people like don't even know about. If you went and asked somebody on the street, hey, did you know there was rent assistance from the third stimulus check package that went out to people? That was $40 billion. That's about the money that went to Ukraine, 40 billion. That's what the rent assistance alone was, 40 billion. Okay. The third stimulus check package was, or I'm sorry, the third stimulus check was about 400 billion, 10 times more than the amount they've sent to Ukraine just for the third stimulus check, 10 times more. And don't forget, there was the second stimulus check, there was the first stimulus check, there's been extra SNAP money going out every single month to a lot of states. You really got to kind of remember and keep in contrast the amount that it's been. And remember, it's not like we're just sending buckets of cash over there to everybody. I mean, yes, we're sending over some food and some stuff like that, but mostly it's defense systems. I mean, I don't think anybody here would want to trade places and go over there because literally, I mean, I'll show you this. I mean, this is in the news here today. U.S. condemns war crimes as Russia drone attack hits Kyiv apartment block. So, I mean, this is stuff that is happening every single day. I mean, they're attacking apartment buildings, guys, with missiles and bombs, apartment buildings, and hospitals, and I mean, it's like the worst of the Bible type of stuff that you can imagine. And to think that we would want to let this go on and not, I mean, we're literally just providing them with defense systems. Like we don't want to, we want this to happen. Like we don't want to let them defend themselves. I mean, just think about that. Think about what that would entail. And then also don't forget that Russia like threatens us on the daily. Like they threaten us with nuclear weapons. I mean, yeah, and don't forget they've also threatened nuking the United Kingdom and parts of Europe. And also don't forget here that you can see here top Russian lawmakers threatened Russia may reclaim Alaska. I mean, this is literally coming from Russia. Remember that Russia sold Alaska to the United States back in the 1800s, and they said, "Hey, if uh, if you keep messing with Russia, we'll take back Alaska." So y- you got to remember here that Russia's crazy. So you can let me know your thoughts here on this, but this is kind of a way to let Ukraine defend themselves without us putting US troops at harm. And also it's very significantly damaged Russia's army. Um, without us having to involve our army as well. So, but on the other hand, it's a very fine line on what, not escalating it too much, but also not letting Russia run wild like what happened with Hitler back in World War II, where it got too bad too far. I mean, don't forget that, um, you know, Putin's already taken over Crimea, and now he's basically annexed or saying he's claimed over 15% of Ukraine as Russian territory. So you can't let madmen just start claiming thousands and thousands of miles of territory in the world as their own. It's a very fine line. So let me know what you would do if you were president in the comment section. So make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so, and I will keep you up to date here. Remember, the new videos come out every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. After you subscribe, click the bell icon down below. It appears after you click the subscribe button, and I'll keep you up to date here. You can click this video here to see my newest video about a $1,400 fourth stimulus check. And here is my newest video about a $2,400 Social Security raise. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.